Hello, everybody. It is the host, and welcome to the Silent Lounge. And today we are talking about Resident Evil Requiem or Resident Evil 9. And right now I'm at the Capcom page. Well, it's not the Capcom page, it's ResidentEvil.com Requiem. And you can definitely look at this page for yourself. I'm going to leave a link to this in the description below. We're basically going to talk about Resident Evil Requiem. And there has been a lot of information that has come out today because the embargo has lifted. So there is just so much more information that we know about this than we did when the reveal trailer came out. So I'm going to talk about it, and then we're going to speculate a little bit about what is in store for us on February 27th, 2026. So by looking on this website, it pretty much just gives us the basic synopsis of what's going on. There's a trailer. We already watched that, and oh my god, this looks so sinister. this this looks really sinister. I'm so pumped for this, just from the way that this thing looks. So this is just what it's about. Requiem for the Dead, Nightmare for the Living. Resident Evil Requiem is the ninth title in the mainline Resident Evil series. Prepare to escape death in a heart-stopping experience that will chill you to your core. A new era of survival horror begins in 2026. Technological advancements combined with development team's depth of experience combine in a story with rich characters and gameplay that's more immersive than ever before. So this is just the story synopsis. Everything is set in motion when a body, the victim of an unidentifiable disease, is discovered in an abandoned hotel. FBI analyst Grace Ashcroft is assigned to the case, but the crime scene is at the very same hotel where her mother died 8 years ago. Grace prepares to finally face the past and makes her way to the scene. But this one case leads to uncovering the hidden truth behind the outbreak in Raccoon City, the biological disaster that shook the world. Will this be the Requiem that finally lays the memories of that abhorrent disaster to rest? So, apparently there's more to the outbreak than we initially thought. So here is the character render for Grace. This is the character render for Grace Ashcroft. This is what she's gonna look like: just jeans, leather. I believe that's a leather jacket and shirt. Pretty basic, but at first a lot of people thought this was gonna be Rose Winters from Resident Evil 8 Village, but I kind of like that they had restraint to not make this about Rosemary. I like that this is a brand new character. Although it is a legacy character, it's still a character nonetheless that we haven't seen at all. This is their debut onto the Resident Evil universe. And by having a brand new character, I think it allows the franchise to go back to its horror roots, because when you have established characters that have been through so much, like Chris Redfield or Leon Kennedy, it's hard for them to go back to a horror setting because they're action heroes. They've been so developed into action heroes, it's hard for them to revert back to that scared rookie cop or that STARS member that's stumbled in a mansion in the middle of the forest. I think it makes sense to have a character like Grace Ashcroft in this game, especially if this game is going to go back to its horror roots. So this is just a little bit of a bio of the character. Grace Ashcroft, an intelligence analyst for the FBI who demonstrates intense focus and insight in deductive reasoning and analysis. Her mother's death shook her to her soul, making her an introvert who immerses herself in work. So she heads to the abandoned hotel alone to investigate this mysterious death. So there is a lot of potential with this character, with the story. This is going to be a more emotional story for this character, especially since she's revisiting the very same area that her mother got brutally murdered. We're going to find out what happened to her mother, what led to her death. Because although I didn't play Outbreak, I know Alyssa Ashcroft is a pretty important character to Resident Evil Outbreak. And now that I know Resident Evil 9 is connected to Resident Evil Outbreak, it gives me more of an incentive to play. So I'm definitely going to check that out. So this is what Raccoon City looks like now. We don't know if this game's going to take place after Resident Evil 8 or if this is going to take place before Resident Evil 7. I'm unsure. I'm going to pretty much not say anything about that just yet. But this is what Raccoon City looks like post Resident Evil 3, and it looks amazing. It's obviously, very gloom and very depressing that a city that populated possibly over 100,000 people is now a ghost town. And I just love that the whole roof is blown out. You have there's just nothing left at all. I'm assuming when we play this, we're definitely going to see some survivors. And when I mean survivors, I mean the undead variety. So this is fantastic. Raccoon City, a Midwestern city in the United States and the headquarters for the former global pharmaceutical company Umbrella. In the face of the zombie outbreak in 1998, the government approved a sterilization operation, a missile strike on the city, in an attempt to quickly bring the situation under control. But this was swiftly covered up. So yeah, they tried covering up by nuking Raccoon City, completely obliterating it from the map. But it's really cool that we get to see the RPD police department still holding. It's still standing, although it's barely standing. A lot of familiar elements here, especially this control box that Leon cuts open with his knife from given by Marvin. I wonder if the underground bunker is going to be intact from the explosion. So this is a question that I keep seeing popping up in the Resident Evil comments, and this is gameplay. So, experience the series' classic survival horror through combat, investigations, puzzles, and resource management. So, you have combat, investigations, which is new, puzzles, which is something we're very familiar with in the Resident Evil franchise, and resource management, which this is just classic RE for you. However, investigations, that's a new one, so we're gonna have to wait and see what that's like. So people have been wondering, is this gonna be first person or third person? It's gonna be both. You have the option to choose first person or third person, which is fantastic. From what I've heard through other media outlets like IGN and Eurogamer and other content creators that were able to play this early, I believe through the main menu, you're able to select this perspective change. It's not going to be seamless like in-game. You get to change from first person to third person. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. This is something that you choose in the main menu, which makes sense because Resident Evil 8 Village, you can only choose through the menu. You can't choose through the pause menu or even through the inventory menu. It's basically through the main menu before you start the game. So I don't have a problem with that. I know there's probably technical limitations for that, so I'm not upset about that at all in the slightest. But I just want to talk about Raccoon City post RE3. I can't wait to walk the streets of Raccoon City after it's been completely obliterated. So now that we got all the basic information out of the way through the Resident Evil website that is supplied by Capcom, now we're going to talk about the juicy details that journalists and content creators have been saying about the Resident Evil 9 demo, and they've all said the same thing. The game feels like Resident Evil 7, and that's a good thing because Resident Evil 7 is directed by the same person who is directing Resident Evil 9 Requiem, and that person is Koshi Nakanishi, who also directed the Resident Evil Revelation games 1 and 2. I would hope that it would have the same tone as Resident Evil 7. So this is music to my ears that the gameplay through the demo is terrifying, especially with the creature that we seen in the teaser trailer or the reveal trailer, how it just looks like a ghoulish monster that I can't even comprehend. And so far they haven't showed it that much other than with some pictures of its smile. Oh, we don't know how big it is. We don't know what it's going to do, but all we know is that it is going to be a stalker enemy type. From what I heard from other journalists is that you're not going to be able to kill this thing, at least not in the very beginning. So Grace Ashcroft wakes up inside the hotel and she needs to figure out clues and solve puzzles in order to progress to the next stage. And obviously, when you figure out all the puzzles and secrets, the demo is going to stop there. So I imagine the demo is going to release fairly soon, especially since they already had a demo ready for journalists. I can't imagine that we have to wait very long to get the demo. I think that we are going to see a demo fairly soon. I don't know when. I'm not going to try to speculate when, because usually that bites me in the butt. So I'm just going to say that we're going to get a demo fairly soon. I'm pretty confident we will. So from what I've heard from different experiences is that it feels like Resident Evil 7, and it's going to be a return to form of genuine horror, which is everything that I wanted Village to be. But unfortunately, Village was more action-oriented, and even Resident Evil 3 Remake was more action-oriented. It didn't feel like a horror game. So it really makes me happy that we're going back to a horror-oriented Resident Evil game. The question is this game going to have VR support? I don't know. Now that we know that the game is going to support third person and first person, I wouldn't see why not. They made Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil Village VR, and those were PlayStation exclusives. So we're just going to have to wait and see if there's ever going to be VR support for this game. I don't know if that's even feasible with the scale of this project, because according to Capcom, Resident Evil 9 is going to be one of the most ambitious projects for the Resident Evil franchise. So we're just going to have to wait and see. In terms of the story, everyone has their predictions of who's going to be the second playable character, and for one, I don't believe it's going to be Leon Kennedy. I think it's going to be someone from the Outbreak storyline that connects Grace to the events that are going to happen in Resident Evil 9, or a character that is connected to Alyssa Ashcroft from Outbreak. So I'm not sure that Leon is going to show. It doesn't really make sense for him to show in a game like this, because this is a pure horror-oriented game, and Leon Kennedy is more of a badass action hero. So putting him in a place like this, I just don't think it's really going to do the game any favors. I know people love Leon Kennedy. He's like one of the staple characters of the franchise, but I would rather have Resident Evil 9 have a new character for her to develop and grow and to become one of the staple characters of the franchise, like Ethan Winters. I think the franchise has way more freedom when it has new characters, because they can develop them, they can flesh them out, and it can really make the gameplay all the more immersive. So I would like to know in the comments below, what perspective do you prefer when playing Resident Evil? Do you prefer the first-person perspective or the third-person perspective? I prefer the first-person perspective because it immerses you with the horror and the atmosphere of the game, and that's definitely what I'm going to do when Resident Evil 9 Requiem comes out. So, Resident Evil 9 Requiem comes out on February 27th, 2026. Keep an eye out for it. I'm pretty sure most of you guys who are watching this video have it marked on your calendar. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video, and subscribe if you enjoyed your stay at the Silent Lounge.